Hey Andy and Josh, this is Xavier, again from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Honored to say that I got to be the first SclusyToot on TBASH, so that's pretty sweet. So I had some free time today on this Sunday afternoon. I thought, what the heck, why not make another one? Talk about some more coffee stuff and a new brew method that I have. Before I do though, I need to give a shout out to Rogue Brewery. If you guys have not tried this yet at TBASH, it's the Rogue Sriracha Hot Stout. You guys need to hop on this. Super good. I love hot sauce. I love beers, especially stouts. I know some people are kind of a little iffy with the stouts, but initially I thought I might be drinking like straight up, sriracha, but this is probably one of the best hot beers I've ever had. Really good blend of the stout, flavors and stuff like that, along with the hot sauce. So again, really smooth on the palate at the beginning, and then it gives you like a little kick in the back of your throat at the end. So I thought it was awesome. It pairs really well with spicy foods. My wife and I made some chicken enchiladas, and I had a pint of this, and yeah, it's good stuff. So try this out, really good. The main reason why I'm here today is I just wanted to talk to you about a new brew method that I just purchased called the SIPHON brew. These are all the brew methods that my wife and I have. I just wanted to quick go through some pros and cons of each, and then just to kind of help set up the SIPHON brew, which I'll show you in a second here. Again, this is the Clever, super easy. It uses the Melita 4 coffee filters. Some pros, again, the brewing process is super easy. It's a full immersion brew, so the coffee grounds are submerged in water the entire time. Some cons, paper filter, be sure to pre-wet it, but oftentimes paper filters tend to trap the oils in the coffee, and the oils is what makes the coffee taste super flavorful. Also, since it's a full immersion brew, once you pour in your water, as the heat decreases, the extraction rate decreases as well. So by the end, you're not getting all that full extraction, all the coffee flavor. But still really good, simple, easy cleanup. And it still makes all these make really good cups of coffee. These are just, again, some pros and cons to kind of think about depending on what you're into. So this is the Hario V60. It's a pour over method. Again, you can get a really crazy banging cup of coffee with this, really flavorful, especially if you try some of the more like fruity coffees. Uses these V60 paper filters. Again, you make an awesome cup of coffee, but some cons, if you want to call them that. This one takes a little more practice and experience. The V60 is pretty tricky. There's a lot of things that can go wrong that can kind of, not necessarily like ruin your cup of coffee, but it won't yield the best results. You had a guest on a while ago who talked about it. I forget which episode it was, but he had said that when you're doing a pour over in a V60, you don't want to hit the side of the filter with water. You don't, because what happens is if you do, it breaks that seal of the coffee grounds in the filter, and so all the water, the water that you're pouring in is going to filter to that section of that corner, and essentially over extract that coffee in that region. So it's pretty tricky. Again, paper filter, so it can trap some of those oils. I already talked about the AeroPress. I love it. As far as like simplicity's sake, it's awesome. And again, really flavorful cups of coffee. Has these paper filters, so again, pre-wet it. It can trap some oils. They do make metal filters for the AeroPress, which makes good coffee. I've always liked the paper though. I don't know. Yeah, AeroPress. French press. This is kind of a staple in most people's houses here. Pretty easy. Again, it's full immersion. So the coffee grounds are completely immersed in water. And are being extracted the entire time. Pros, metal filter, so you don't have the paper filter trapping those oils, which is great. Con though is, again, it's full immersion, so there's no continuous heat source, so again, as the heat lowers of the water, the extraction rate is going to lower. So that's going to set up the SIPHON brew. The SIPHON was again, I love the AeroPress. When I worked at a cafe out here in Sioux Falls, these two were my go-to. For simplicity's sake and coffee consistency as far as it tastes, this is great. The SIPHON though, man, this makes a crazy cup of coffee. It's a full immersion. So again, like the Clever and like the French press, the coffee is completely immersed in water the entire time. What's great though is that there's a couple things here. It uses a cloth filter. So there's metal on the inside and there's cloth wrapped around it, so you don't get the cloth trapping the oils, so you get really full-bodied, flavorful cups of coffee. But this is a stovetop method, and so this has a continual heat source. You set this on your stove, and basically, again, it's a continuous heat source, so you have really strong control over your coffee, how it's brewed, but also there's no lowering of the heat, so you get full coffee extraction the entire time, which again yields a super flavorful cup of coffee. Essentially, it uses vacuum pressure to make your coffee. You filled up this bottom carafe to the 5-cup line. You take this. You'll put in the filter, you let it heat up. Once it's boiling and it's good temperature, I'm still kind of working on it. I'll lower mine a little bit, lower the temperature, but you seal it here. There's like a rubber gasket on the inside and you seal it. The water is hot, it's expanding, it needs room to go, or it needs somewhere to go, so it filters up into this top carafe. You dump in your grounds, give it a stir. I let mine steep for 1:30, and once you remove it from the heat source, the coffee filters back down to the bottom, leaving the grounds on the top. It basically uses vacuum pressure. It's also called a vac pot, but it uses vacuum pressure to make your coffee. What's awesome though, again, is that I like French press coffee. You get really great flavors, but with the siphon, you get the nuances of the French press minus that muddiness or murkiness that oftentimes comes with the French press. Again, once you get to that bottom cup, it can get pretty, grainy. Like when you're drinking your coffee, you're like, oh, this is kind of thick and sludgy almost like. You get all the awesome flavors from the French press minus the muddiness, so you get a super, super refined cup of coffee with the siphon. Again, all these are great. They all kind of have their own unique little personality when brewing coffee. Again, I enjoy all of them. Sometimes, I'll usually make a clever before work because it's pretty quick. But in most cases, my go-tos are the AeroPress and the siphon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little tutorial. I'm going to set this up and show you how to make a cup of siphon coffee. So just a quick little setup here. I have my bottom pitcher filled up to close to the 5-cup line. You want to take this little piece that it comes with and put it on the burner. You want a separation between the burner and your pot here, your bottom carafe. Also, they say not to crank it on high, your burner. Have it at least at the max, like a medium heat. Here is that cloth filter I was telling you about. And so I'm going to put this in so you can kind of see how this works. There's a little spring here on the bottom. And so I'm going to take the top part of the carafe here. You just take it, you lower it in like this, center it, and you pull this chain down and it just hooks right there on the bottom. And then you can just take this, set it to the side, and rock and roll. Alright, so I got my water, it's hot. So what I'm going to do is I turn it down a little bit too. I'm going to seal this now. You're going to watch the water start to filter up into the top here. Sounds like a dying creature, but it's okay, that's what it's supposed to sound like. So the water shooting up. Once it gets 3/4 of the way, I'm dumping my grounds. Right when I dump in my grounds, I'm going to hit start on my timer. And again, I'm going to you want to make sure that you get all the grounds wet. Stir it vigorously. I give it a couple stirs around. There's always going to be a little bit of water at the bottom. And I'll let that go for 1:30. But you want to maintain a consistent temperature, because if you don't, if it starts to get too cold too quickly, then it's going to start to filter down to the bottom, and you're going to have the coffee's going to be extracted too early. So it's looking pretty good. One thing that you want to do is that you want to make sure that once the coffee starts to filter out at the end, you're looking for a little dome. The ground should form a little dome over top of the filter. I don't know if we'll get it with this. Like I said, I've been trying to figure it out, working with it. Typically the one that I've worked with before has a butane burner on the bottom, and that's a little bit easier to control. Once it gets hot, you can move it out to the side, so it's still maintaining heat and heat to the coffee, but it's not direct heat source. This one's a little bit trickier. So, all right. So remove the heat source, and I'm going to stir a couple more times, not as vigorously. Now the coffee is going to filter down to the bottom as it starts to cool down here. So like I said, what you're looking for ideally is when the coffee starts to filter down, you want the grounds to kind of form a little dome over top of the over top of the filter. See, the coffee starting to filter down. If you have that dome, it's just an indicator that you have, it's indicative that you had a good extraction. You don't want to be super lumpy or anything. You don't want a super steep dome either. That's the one thing I've been trying to work with. I could have, tried to perfect it before I made the video, but I was just too dang excited about getting this and making a video to show you guys. So, but yeah, there'll just be more trial and error after this. So, but like I said, you have a consistent heat source, so the coffee is constantly being extracted. You have a really good extraction rate that's consistent. Full immersion, good flavors, cloth filter, so it's not trapping a lot of those oils. You don't want to grind the coffee too fine though, because if you do, then they'll clog up that filter. So you can, as far as grind preference, it's whatever you're kind of a fan of, whatever works, but just don't go too fine. The one thing that I guess this would be a con of the siphon is that the water's pretty hot. This coffee from the siphon tastes really good once it's cooled down a little bit, so you have to wait a while to try out your coffee. Oh dang, that's like perfect. Oh heck yeah, woohoo! I'm so pumped. Heck yeah, man, look at that. It was meant to be, you guys, meant to be. All right, I don't know if you can really tell, but there's just like a little dome. All right, so when you're done, just take the carafe and pour yourself a cup of coffee. So signing out from Sioux Falls. Thanks again for all you guys do, and take care. SclusyToot.